Hey guys, and welcome to today's video. Today's video is going to be not so much a tutorial, but my 5 top tips for Photoshop retouching when it comes to portraits. And I've had a few people request me to do this video. So this is kind of like a TLDR, too long didn't read the rest of my tutorials. If you haven't gone through and seen my hundreds of tutorials on Photoshop and portrait retouching, these tips will be kind of like my summarized tips into one video, my top 5. So I really hope you guys enjoy the video and get something out of it. So let's get straight into it. So my first tip is always, first and foremost, to use adjustment layers. And I think this is a really important tip because adjustment layers allow you to make adjustments to your photographs without really ruining the quality of the original images and retaining that original quality as well. Basically, all adjustment layers are located in this little box just down here. And you just click on that and you'll see there's lots of different adjustment layers that you can apply. So if you wanted to, say, adjust the brightness and contrast of an image, you click on that and you can brighten the image or darken the image using that adjustment layer. But you can see it's come up in a layer form and it's a lot better for your images because you do get to retain that quality. So that's my first tip, definitely important one, and one that I use in all of my tutorials and all of my retouching. So my second tip when it comes to retouching portraits, and this is a pretty big one also, is to use a couple of different methods that also retain the quality in your images, but also give you a lot of room to move in terms of how much you do retouch and what you need to. So my first method of retouching skin that I really love to use is dodging and burning. That is my favorite currently to retouch beauty portraits in particular. This is definitely a more tedious way to do it. And that's why you'll probably see beauty retouchers spending 5 hours or longer on one image because it is quite a slow process, although the effect that it does give you in the end is definitely a great one. So I think it gives the best effect in terms of skin retouching, and especially if you do want to keep skin natural, it's a way to not use any of the healing tools as well or directly be interfering with the background image. So it's definitely one of my favorite ways to do it. The second way is to use frequency separation. So I'm going to show you guys what they both do and how they are different to each other. First off, I'm going to show what dodging and burning basically is and how I would usually do it. So it's a really simple system. All you have to do is use a couple of adjustment layers. So if you click on the adjustment box down here and go up to curves, and then bring the highlight, just make a mark on the line and then bring that right up so the image is looking quite overexposed. So about there maybe. So this is going to be our dodging layer. This is going to brighten up the skin. And we're going to hold down Control and I on the keyboard, and that's inverted the layer. So basically it's not showing up anymore in the image, but we are going to bring that brightness through. And how we're going to do that is by clicking on the paintbrush over on this side of Photoshop, making sure that we have a 1% flow. And for the pixel size on the brush, I'm going to zoom in and make sure we've got the right size brush for this. So I'd say that's probably a good size, about 57 pixels for this particular one. And now we're going to make sure that this box is selected here. And we're going to start painting the light onto the photo. And this is how I would usually dodge and burn. This is a really versatile way of doing it. And it allows you to get into every little shadow and every little blemish on the skin. But it still kind of gives that natural effect, providing you don't go overboard, of course. I'm just going to click that layer on and off to show you how much of a difference that's made just by using light to retouch skin. Definitely a favorite method of mine. So to do the burning layer, you basically just do the same thing again, get a curves adjustment layer up and bring the line down this time. And we control and invert that. So Control and I, and then do the same thing, making sure that the white color is selected down here and the flow is at 1%. And then you're able to paint over some of the areas that you want to be a bit darker. So such a great way of doing it. The next way that I like to do skin editing is by using frequency separation. It's a different method altogether. I'm going to go over a quick rundown of what a frequency separation action is, because there's lots and lots of different tutorials out there that show you pretty much a start to finish how you create an action, or you can even just download one online. There's plenty up for download. But basically what frequency separation is mainly working between two layers. So you've got your texture layer on top, and then you've got your, what I like to call the blemish layer on the bottom. And this is going to allow you to pretty much get rid of any blemishes or any uneven coloring in the skin tone, whereas the texture layer will be purely just the texture of the skin. So if I turn off the texture layer here, that shows you what the blemish layer looks like. So this is kind of like a blurry layer of the image, and it allows you to get rid of any blemishes or anything that's uneven in the skin tone. So usually I would do this by choosing a healing tool, such as the healing brush tool. This is usually a good one for that. And then making sure that that layer is selected. We'll just make sure the size of the brush is also a little bit bigger. And then by holding down Alt and choosing on a certain area, you can sort of start to get rid of any blemishes or unevenness in the skin tone. So I'll link a couple of different frequency separation actions in the description box below, and you guys can go and download it and try it out for yourself. But I'll show you guys what that has done just by using the frequency separation. So that's what it looks like now. So you can see that we haven't actually touched the texture layer too much, which I don't like to do a lot. The main reason I like to use the texture layer is for like stray hairs, for example. So I usually use the spot healing brush tool for that. And making sure that it's kind of quite a small brush, I would just run the spot healing brush tool over those hairs, and then that tends to get rid of them pretty well. So yeah, any just really uneven parts in the skin texture, I would use the skin texture layer, but I tend to not alter it too much. So there you go, there's my two favorite ways of skin retouching. Sometimes I'll use a combination of both, frequency separation and dodging and burning, but dodging and burning would definitely have to be my favorite out of the two. For my third tip today, I'm going to show you guys how to use the black and white adjustment layer for skin texture. This allows the skin texture to be brought through a lot more, and it looks really cool. You do have to be careful of using this tool, because if you go overboard with it, it can look quite muddy and make the skin look quite muddy overall. So you do need to be a little bit light-handed with it, but if you use it correctly, you can bring a lot of that skin texture right back through. So I'm going to show you guys how I would use this layer. I'm going to zoom in so you can see the skin texture. So you can see that Lucrezia has quite a few freckles, and I'd really want to bring that through a little bit more. So usually what I would do is I'd go to the adjustment layers here and go to black and white. And then I would click on tint, which usually has like a cream color automatically. And then I would set the blending mode here to luminosity. So everything that I'm going to do is going to pass straight through. By using the reds and the yellows in this, we can alter the skin tone. So if we move the red down a little bit, you can already see that the texture is just coming in these parts of the skin tone. But like I said, you do need to be a little bit light-handed with it. And also the yellow channel. So yeah, just probably about there for now. And that's kind of brought back the texture through a little bit more. So I'll just turn that on and off. And you guys can really see that it's given the image overall a lot more contrast. You can soften this effect by using some other effects in Photoshop, such as brightening, using curves, and even color grading and that sort of thing. And we can alter it even further, which I will be doing. But I do like this technique just to get that little bit of texture back into the skin tone. And it's a great way to do that with portraits if the skin is looking a little bit too soft or a little bit too smooth. The fourth tip is going to be regarding color grading. So my two favorite ways that I like to do this in Photoshop is by using a curves adjustment layer and also a selective color adjustment layer. These are my favorites because they're so versatile in what you can get and the effects that you can get by using them. So first off, I'm going to show you guys what the curves layer is and how I like to use it. So we've already seen this by using the curves layer in the skin retouching section of this tutorial. But what I'm going to show you guys now is how I like to brighten the image. So just by using different points in curves, you can change the brightness and contrast. And you can also change the coloring. So if you click on this box here, you can go down to the red, green, and blue channels. So first off, we'll go to red. And I usually like to just sort of play around with this until it gives me the effect that I'm after. And gives me kind of a nice colored effect. And I like to make just a few different points in each channel. You can see that if you're bringing the dot up over the line, it'll go into blue and down into yellow if you move it below the line. So this is with all of the channels, and that's how they work. You'll be getting contrasting colors. So I'm pretty happy with that. If we turn that on and off, you can see that's made a really subtle effect, especially with the color grading part. Now I'm going to bring up a selective color adjustment layer. And usually I would mainly work with whites, neutrals, and blacks with selective color because they're going to really overhaul the photo in terms of color grading. The whites will mainly be working with the highlights in the image, neutrals will be working with the midtones, and then the blacks will be working with the shadows. So the whites, I'm going to just play around with the sliders until I get the effect that I need. I'm going to neutrals. So as you can see, it's quite versatile in the types of colors that you can come up with. And then blacks. And I would usually spend quite a bit of time moving these sliders around until I found something that I really liked. Color grading, I think, takes the longest time for me, really just finding those colors that I like in photos. Skin retouching can also take a long time, but I don't know, color grading is one of my favorite things to do, and I really like to make sure I'm sort of perfecting it. So just to show you guys what that's also done with selective color, that's just a minor difference, but like I said, you can really go quite heavy-handed with it or light-handed with it, however colored you like to make your photos look. And you can also spend hours and hours doing this to get your desired effect. So those are my two favorite ways to do color grading in Photoshop. My last tip for today is actually to do with sharpening your images. Now, my favorite way to sharpen is not by using the standard sharpening techniques that come with Photoshop. I feel like they don't always give as much versatility in how you can make the image look. And this is just personally always a technique that I've used with sharpening, so I really love it, and I hope you guys will too. You guys might already know of this technique, but it's by using high pass. So to do this, all we have to do is duplicate the background layer. So we just click and hold that and move it into the new layer button. So there we've got our background copy. And then we go up to Filter, Other, High Pass. And then you can see it's brought up a very textured layer. So usually I would have this set to about between 4 and 5 pixels radius. So we'll go 4.9 and click OK. And then we'll change the blending mode to overlay. So it's only a few steps in this process, and it's really easy to use. So I'm going to zoom in so you guys can see how that's made an effect on the skin. So obviously it's looking very sharp at the moment. And if we pull that away, you can see how much that's sharpened up the image. So we can also move the opacity here down a little bit. So I'd probably move that down to say around 60%, just to have a nice sharpness there. So yeah, like I said, that's a very easy technique to use, and it does give you quite a bit of versatility in how you can use it and power over how much the image is being sharpened. Okay guys, so that is my list of 5 favorite Photoshop tips that I love to use every time I'm retouching portraits. So I'm going to show you guys a before and after now, and the finished photo is made by using all of the techniques I've discussed today in this tutorial. So you guys will see what the end product will finally look like. So this is the before image before we started doing anything today. And this is the fully edited image with color grading and sharpening and curves layers and everything. So you can see I've used curves for dodging and burning, and I've also used the black and white layers. I've used selective color and more curves layers. So these are my favorite ways to edit. All of these tips are tips that I use on a regular basis for my own work, and I really hope you guys enjoyed the tutorial. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up, and if you haven't subscribed to my channel already, please do, as I've got many tutorials lined up for the next few months in terms of photography and retouching. And please let me know what you guys would like to see on my channel. I'm always after requests and what you guys want to see, so definitely feel free to put that in the comments section below. If you're interested in travel vlogging, I also have a travel vlogging channel with my boyfriend Dan, as I'm currently on a 3-month around the world trip, which is unfortunately coming to an end very soon. But if you'd like to keep up with the vlogs, they are posted on that channel, and that's listed in the description box below as well. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye!